shot towards the end zone. Underthrown, McCollum, touchdown. Trey Tucker to the end zone it goes. Caught! Touchdown, Armand Benz.
Bearcat Blitz. How we doing, everybody? Rounding out another great summer week here on the Believe Network. I'm your host, Russ Heltman. He's my host, Neil Meyer. We are presented by Bet Online. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review there. And also available on YouTube. Talking Cats with Russ Heltman. You can watch the video feed of the show there as well. We are less than a week away from Scott Satterfield's season opening press conference. We are less than a week, or literally 1 week away from the Bearcats getting things going for fall camp, and then they will be on to higher ground a little bit later on at the start of August. Exciting times, Neil. We got a ton to get to. Not a ton to get to, but a good amount to get to today. But before all that, let's get a message in from our great presenting sponsor, Bet Online. They're the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics, which has already gotten underway. The soccer is in full force, and the opening ceremony going on Friday. So that'll be a lot of fun to see. Baseball, Formula One racing, all in action right now. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get out on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Once again, that's a BLEAV. Bet Online. The game starts here. We have some things to get to today, including our top camp storylines on defense. I'll take one side. Neil will take another side, and we'll talk about those to start the show. We'll take a break after that and then discuss the NCAA increasing scholarships reportedly in the works. I don't think it's been necessarily finalized just yet, but it looks like we're heading towards that way, and it means some more options for not all of the varsity sports, but the two varsity sports that we talk about the most are getting more options in this plan. We also had 10 Bearcats named to the Shrine Bowl 1000, looking at kind of the 1,000 different college football players that could get anything ranging from a NFL rookie minicamp invite all the way up to the top projected draft picks in the 2025 NFL draft. So we got all that coming up after this short break on Bearcat Blitz. Back at it on Bearcat Blitz, presented by Bet Online. You can check Neil Meyer and I out on Talking Cats with Russ Heltman, the YouTube page, as I mentioned, and also Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. Neil also writing for the frontofficenews.com. Neil, let's toss it to you first, my man, with the top defensive storyline you're watching out for during fall camp in just a few days.
Yeah, Russell, obviously, I think the number one thing everybody is going to be keeping an eye out for is the health of Dontay Corleone and what capacity he is participating in at fall camp. Obviously, we have seen some of the videos. Scott Satterfield announced at Big 12 Media Days that he has returned to practice, despite just at that time, it was just 11 days since the announcement came out from the university that he was going to be out indefinitely due to a non-football related illness. And then to hear that he's already back at practice just a short 2 weeks later was a significant and very positive update surrounding the health of Dontay Corleone. But it's going to be interesting to see what capacity he is out there participating in. Obviously, full pads are still something that's yet to be determined. Obviously, still have a lot of things to overcome. And the main thing is they're going to do whatever they can to keep him healthy. His health is the number one priority in this situation. But Russ, I'm not sure if you saw it. The video of the earning the C-Pauls looks like Dontay was out there practicing with those guys. He was the number one, and he was right there holding up the Strong Shall Reign in the Group 2.
Yeah, in that photo yesterday. Yep.
Yeah.
Or on earlier in the middle of the week, depending on when we actually post this show.
So he was front and center there. So he is participating in practice. So that's going to be the number one storyline for me is what kind of role will Dontay Corleone have coming off of a significant health scare like the one that he was dealt with? But another thing that I'll be keeping an eye out, obviously the main talk of this defense is going to be the secondary. We've talked about it a couple times on this show, Russ, about big plays, a complete overhaul there in the secondary and the defensive back room. But for me, along with keeping an eye on the defensive back room, I'm looking at the linebacker room. Obviously, a new defensive scheme. You're looking back from a year ago. You do not have your top tackler in Deshaun Pace, who transferred to UCF. You do not have your second or your third top tackler in Dorian Jones, who transferred to Virginia. So you really going to be keeping an eye out there. Scott Satterfield even mentioned it at Big 12 Media Days that they felt like they didn't have the depth at that position last season. Obviously, they felt like they wish they had some depth there behind Jack Dingle, and what really could have been able to kind of give him some run there. Obviously, he was playing banged up for most of the season that we all know about. But it's going to be interesting to see the progression of Jonathan Thompson, who came along last season, who finished with just 31 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 5 quarterback hurries, which if you look at the statistics, despite being a sophomore, was the second most quarterback hurries on the team a season ago. So that's somebody I'm going to really be kind of focusing on to see what kind of role he'll have and the steps he's made from sophomore year to junior year. But the addition of Jared Bartlett in the linebacker room, Jake Galladay, we have heard nothing but high praise for those two guys all throughout the summer and spring. So we're really going to be keeping an eye out there, but it's going to be interesting to see how this new defensive scheme allows the linebackers to really kind of float and do what they need to do, whether that's get upfield and attack the quarterback, which is something we have heard a lot with a guy like Jared Bartlett. But overall, that's another significant position of need that the Bearcats went out and addressed. And it's going to be interesting to see how this new defensive scheme under Tyson Veit allows those linebackers to get upfield and attack, and what they'll be able to do on the defensive front as well.
Right. It looks like they're going to be going back to, right, Neil, a 3-3-5 type of look, which is what they famously were so successful. Yeah, we're so successful with under Fickle. So you're going to have 3 down linemen, those 3 linebackers, and some guys that are going to be coming off the edge as well. I think Jared Bartlett probably profiling more as a guy who's going to get upfield after the quarterback in this defense. Yeah. So the off-ball linebackers more so I'm looking at, can Jack Dingle take that leap? Can Jonathan Thompson take that leap? I was very impressed with Thompson last year in his freshman season, just first time getting snaps, 261 total in 2023. Was pretty solid with a 75.3 tackling grade. That's great to see out of a young player, and a 60.5 overall grade. That's not fantastic. It's not great, but it's solid for a freshman and a guy just getting his feet wet, and a guy who really started to come on down the stretch of the season, getting consistent playing time from basically game 7 on through the Big 12 calendar. So Jonathan Thompson, I think, is a very strong breakout candidate on this roster. When you look at the linebackers, Jake Galladay, what does he bring? What does he kind of impact can he have as a transfer from the FCS level? I'm pretty sure. And will we see any kind of continued growth out of Brady Drogosh? We know he has the frame. Mm-hmm. We know he has just the want to get it done. We saw him in spring practice and the spring game, just being willing to get his nose dirty, being willing to get in there and do whatever this coaching staff asks of him. Can he find a way to break into this rotation? That linebacker unit is definitely going to be something to watch. And then obviously, like you mentioned, Dontay Corleone. It's similar to quarterback that we talked about on the earlier in the week show. Defense is going to go by Dontay Corleone. They need him out there. They need him to be at the All-American level player he has played like over the last couple of years if they want to reach their goal of meeting a bowl game this season. And we're going to start to get answers to that from Scott Satterfield. And as you mentioned, Neil, great signs that he is on the practice field. He's getting featured in team media, and to kind of just harken back to what Satterfield said at Big 12 Media Days, quote, "Our medical team has done an outstanding job identifying and attacking what he's got going on. He just started working back out last week, so he's back with the team this week, and that was well over 2-3 weeks ago at this point. So obviously, and continuing to quote here, obviously they worked out yesterday. He's doing great. I think we'll just lean on that medical advice, and as we push forward, the goal is for him to be out there playing with his team, playing at a high level, and I think we'll be able to make that happen." Signs point to that happening, Neil. I would, at this point, I would be a little surprised. Knock on wood. Want to keep all the superstitions out there that you have to, but I would be surprised if we don't see Dontay Corleone at full strength this season. Hopefully for game 1 against Towson. So that's great to see, and after a really scary scary news drop in the middle of June, just not knowing. You never know what can happen with the big guys and the blood clots. It's all its own case-by-case basis. And it sounds like the medical team at UC has, as they've done with so many different things on the football field, in the athletic program, and outside the athletic program, when you think about Cincinnati Children's and just UC Health and how respected they are nationally, they've done a great job handling this. So it's good to see from Dontay Corleone that we will hopefully see him out there for fall camp and entirety of fall camp, and him kind of showcasing his ability and making a true case to be not only a draft pick in the NFL this coming season, but if he plays to his ceiling, Dontay Corleone could be the first round pick, or the second first round pick of this decade for Cincinnati, to go along with Ahmad Sauce Gardner. He has that kind of ceiling and that kind of ability in this defense, I think, to unleash him in Tyson Vite's unit, get him upfield a little bit more, showcase a little bit more of his pass rush ability. I know he was very excited about those prospects, Neil, when we talked with him in the spring. His eyes were lighting up about being back in this kind of unit that he was first featured in when he tore up the AAC a couple of years ago. Ultimately, it's going to come down to, I think, the health of Dontay Corleone with the ceiling of this defense, and how well they've shored up, and my storyline here going into defense and going into fall camp, the back end. The safety unit, the cornerback unit last year was arguably the worst in the power conference level. You could make that argument. They were, I believe PFF had them ranked as either the worst coverage grade of any defense in the country or bottom 5 in terms of overall power conference teams. So they've done a lot of work to get this shored back up. They put a lot of resources into this unit. When you think about adding guys like Josh Minkins, Mekhi Miller, Derek Canteen to this unit, getting more experience for Jordan Young and putting confidence in Jordan Young.
Kai Stokes as well back there.
Yeah, that Kai Stokes as well from Ohio State, that Jordan Young could be a solid outside cornerback. I'm expecting leaps from Young. I think it can't get much worse than we saw on times from Jordan Young last year, but that experience should also make him a much better player going into this year around. And he just didn't have any outside corner experience at the FBS level, let alone power conference level going into last year. So I'm expecting a big year out of Jordan Young and a much higher floor for this safety and cornerback and defensive back unit than we saw last year. And if they get that higher floor, Neil, you pair that with healthy season, full strength from Dontay Corleone and a more unleashed role to get after the quarterback. You pair that with what we talked about on Monday, with a quarterback competition being sealed up by Brendan Sorsby and his athleticism and his pedigree showing off on the field and reaching a higher ceiling than the quarterback play could hit last year. There's no reason to think that this team, despite the odds kind of making it a 50-50 proposition, when you look at most sports books right now, having the Bearcats at over 5.5 and minus 110 odds on each side of that win total, I think there's a good chance they can get the 6 wins in game. If those things that I don't think are super unrealistic end up happening, and you look at their overall schedule, there are wins to be had on that thing. So exciting times for the Bearcats football team. Hope springs eternal. The job is just about doubling your win total from last year, getting to a bowl game, get to 6-6, and hopefully start building the foundation of this program under Scott Satterfield, get him back into a bowl game, and get him back on the right side of 500, or right at 500 would be a good goal to set for this program if they can get it done in 2025. We're so close to those pads coming on, and all those players getting after it at Nippert Stadium and at Camp Higher Ground. Excited to see how much this staff has improved the team from the worst record of the century for Bearcats football, a 3-9 mark in 2024. I expect improvement. I think they will improve. Will they get the 6 wins? We're not going to reveal our predictions just yet. We're going to save that for about a month from now in the week before the first game against Towson. But it's going to be a lot of fun to see just how much progression that's happened from spring to summer as we get into fall camp.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be the biggest thing, is what progression does this team make from year 1 to year 2? But it's going to be very exciting. Obviously, the fall camp kicks off here in just about a week, Russ. So it's going to be really exciting to get back out there and watch these guys. It's going to be exciting to get back to Camp Higher Ground, as everybody knows the historic legacy surrounding the Cincinnati football program and Camp Higher Ground. So it's going to be great to get back out there, but it's most excitingly, it's going to be able to get back there and see the chip on these guys' shoulders. Because that, as we've heard about all offseason, Russ, we've heard about the difficult offseason. We've heard about the chip on these guys' shoulders that want to come back here and get this program back to the level they were despite just being 2 years out. They're really anxious and eager to turn this thing around and get this ball rolling as they enter their second season in the Big 12. So I'm really excited to get back to Camp Higher Ground and see what the Bearcats are able to do and put on display as they head into now just about a month away from opening kickoff first 1,000.
Should be a much improved team compared to what they put on the field in 2023. Bearcat Blitz continuing after these messages right here on the Believe Network. All righty, Neil. Some news and notes to get to as we wind down the show on the back half here. Interesting little news dump from the NCAA circuit of things. Scholarship increases happening according to Yahoo Sports' Ross Dellinger, that they are in talks. The NCAA is about to enact a new scholarship total addition for football and basketball and a bunch of other varsity sports as well, including baseball, softball, volleyball. Football going from 85 scholarships to 105 projected, and basketball going from 13 scholarships to 15 scholarships. I think this is really good news for Cincinnati, Neil. Just the ability to kind of keep more depth pieces in the fold, be able to add some more developmental pieces along the way as well, and just make sure that when it's a win in football, and if on the basketball side of things, if that injury bug hits, you can have some more options to get to deeper down your bench.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this could be a great thing if the NCAA goes through with it. Obviously, it's being reported that is expected to approve increased scholarships across multiple sports. So overall, the football total right now, Russ, for scholarships, you're sitting at 85 scholarships a year. But if you, from the expected report, it says that they will be looking to increase that number to 105. As you mentioned, keeping the depth around is huge in that situation. But overall, you're adding 20 scholarships. That's a significant increase and advantage to all football programs across the country, and even the 2 additional to basketball as well, because right now you only get the 13, but then you're looking at a 15 roster limit, would kind of bump that up to maybe a 17 roster limit if you do the +2. But I think the biggest substantial, Russ, you're looking down is the baseball aspect, and that is huge if you're a guy like Coach Bishel here at UC, because right now it says that they are expected to approve increased scholarships across multiple sports, saying baseball would jump to 34 in this new, if this goes through. That is a plus 22.3 scholarship differential, which is huge.
It must be just be 22, right? I think that might have been just a typo on threes.
Yeah, it should just be 22. But
yeah,
but still, you're looking at a 12 scholarships for baseball. I mean, roster sizes in baseball across college athletics are huge. They're about 30, 35 kids. So that's a huge substantial right there. Now that you get 34 potential scholarships there, I think that is huge, especially in Coach Bishel's standpoint here at UC after what he's done in year 1. So I think that's huge, a huge upside there as well. But even I'm a high school volleyball coach for those who don't know. So even seeing that on the aspect as well, seeing scholarships jump from 12 to 18 potentially in the volleyball aspect, that is huge on the volleyball front as well, because everybody knows you can only play 6 on the court, but you get multiple subs. So seeing that number increase as well is definitely a trend in the right direction on the volleyball front as well.
And it must have just been a kind of like a monetary issue of not being able to have this amount of scholarships in the first place, just with all these schools. But just more people getting scholarships, more people getting access to just cheaper education, free education at that. How are you going to argue with that? It's great stuff to see. And we love seeing that from the NCAA, and some more players to cover here on Bearcat Blitz across all of those sports. Speaking of players to cover, 10 names, Neil, as we close out the show here with the Shrine Bowl 1000. 10 names for Cincinnati. They were pretty well represented among Big 12 teams. When you look at the guys in the likes of Dontay Corleone, Luke Kandra, John Williams, Darian Barner, Corey Kiner, Jordan Young, Eric Phillips, Derek Canteen, Jared Bartlett, and DeAndre Buford as potential candidates to be getting looks at the NFL level, whether that be an invite to a rookie minicamp all the way up to the likes of Dontay Corleone, who will be drafted this year if he does end up playing a full season and this fully healthy, and a guy like Luke Andrew, who I fully expect to be drafted if he continues to play like he did last season in the Big 12. So I think this is cool to see guys getting some kind of just baseline understanding of where they stand heading into the season. I think is good for everybody. And overall, Neil, I'll be interested to see if UC can get 3 guys drafted this season. Will Corey Kiner and his increased speed that he's been working on all offseason, will that be enough to get him in the mix in one of those mid to late rounds? Will an Eric Phillips get in the mix here? Will a Derek Canteen or a Jared Bartlett or a Darian Varner, stuff like that? I think there's a decent possibility UC has 3 names called in the NFL draft come April 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you, Russ. I definitely think there's an opportunity there that we hear 3 Bearcats names called in April's NFL draft. I really do. And I think right now it's obviously, as you mentioned, Luke Kandra is back for his senior season, and he is poised to anchor that offensive line. I think he will be one of those that you will definitely hear his name called, barring any crazy instances happening. Dontay Corleone as well. As long as we get a full season healthy of him, I think he could slide right into that first round. And as you mentioned earlier in the show, Russ, become the second first-round draft pick this century for the Cincinnati football program. So outside those 2, and then Corey Kiner as well, if he can repeat what he was able to do last season, obviously finished with 1,047 yards on the ground last season. Obviously, we've heard from him at Big 12 Media Days and throughout this offseason about what he is able to look forward to and what he's working on heading into his senior season. And we've heard all offseason about how he's really been working on his speed, really trying to focus on breaking those long runs. I know, Russ, there was a couple times last year where he would break off those long runs and he would get caught down towards the tail end. Despite having an open lane to the end zone, he would get chased down. So he's really been working on that. But Corey Kiner behind a whole returning offensive line is something that me personally, I'm looking forward to. And I think it would be something he would be able to excel in really well behind an offensive line returning right there behind Luke Kandra and company up front in the trenches. So I think, Russ, I really think there's a chance for 3 guys at least to hear their name called in April, with the potential of even more coming. So it's going to be interesting, but I definitely think you'll hear 3 names called from the Cincinnati football program in April's draft.
Yeah, I kind of sold Sauce Gardner a little short there. I said second first-round pick of the decade. You're right, Neil. It would be the second first-round pick for UC of the century if Dontay Corleone could find a way to keep elevating his game and show the NFL talent evaluators that he is worthy of one of those top 32 picks. Fun show this week as we get ready for the big happenings in the first week of fall camp. A lot of stuff to bring you all next week. Neil and I will have you covered right here on Bearcat Blitz. Until then, stay tuned with all the coverage on Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, and check out Neil's work on the front office news. This has been Bearcat Blitz presented by Bet Online.
6, Ritter to the end zone, looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown. Back as I've been around. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race. House call. Touchdown. 79 yards. Big one in the Beach Bowl. This is a big one too.